Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is going to be the opening match between Worst and Wizard. Wow, we got the double W loderation. Bottom right hand corner, we got Wizard starting as the blue blue Zerg. For my mind wandered for a half second there. I was like, is there a color that starts with a W? White. I guess if one of these guys, I did do the color swap by the way, so we did have White Wizard with Worst in the match for a moment, but wanted to swap it because it was a little bit close to the kind of tan color over here anyway. I digress. Bottom left hand corner, we got Worst starting as the red Protoss. He's actually shown some pretty good stuff up to this stage. He got a little bit thrown off by a little bit of cheese here in the earlier rounds, but from what I saw, his versus Zerg was phenomenal. And we'll see if Wizard has what it takes, because honestly, Wizard, from what I recall, was playing a more passive macro style, and I just don't think that's going to cut it against Worst overall. Actually, a lot of the Zerg have kind of folded back to the passive macro style, and Worst has done a pretty good job at jumping on that and responding to it, and also getting a little bit ahead with some early game aggression. We'll see. I think he's going to opt for a Forge opener here with this earlier scout. It looks like Wizard is going to end up with the first scout himself, with the Overlord making its way out. Standard overpool, it looks like here, which I don't know why that's become standard overall for Wizard. I think this is more the copy sulky hour, especially on a 4-player map. I'm shocked to see it, but we do see a gas. So initially a gas plant, but I'm wondering if it was a, so we got a gas plant and a cancel in the midst of that, interestingly enough, and a little bit of delay on that Overlord. So I think that was intended to be gas, but once the probe wandered in, there was the cancellation to sneak the extra probe, or the extra drone, I should say, overall, because Worst got first scout, and if he saw first scout with that gas, it would have been, and I actually, never mind, yeah, it was actually straight up a 9 pool. So I take it back. 9 pool, was 9 pool gas canceled after the fact. I'm miscalling it. I saw the egg and just presumed. Anyway, Zergling's constructed, but we do have the Forge, and with first scout here from Worst, he's gonna be able to get those initial 2 cannons down, no problem. Bad commentary on my part. You know, I'm so used to seeing, this is my fault now. I've gotten so accustomed to seeing the overpool that I saw that egg and I didn't click on it and I didn't look in the upper left hand corner. I just presumed. And you know what they say about assumptions, you guys. Anyway, but the gas being dropped and then canceled, I think, was also a giveaway. Worst blocking out the natural expansion with the probe. We do have the 2 cannons, which should be there in plenty of time. There's also going to be likely a gateway as well here from Worst. You might want to try to push. Ooh, the Overlord cycling back. It needs to be careful. It's going to take, is it going to take a shot? Not taking a shot on the high ground. Worst is still going to go for the Nexus instead of going for the gateway in the midst of this. And now that those cannons are finished, the Overlord has in fact confirmed it. The Zergling's going to make their way back. The one advantage here for Wizard is with those initial 6 Zerglings, oftentimes you can put a little bit more pressure on that probe scout and put your opponent in the dark, and sometimes that can open up opportunities where you create an ambiguity around potential follow-ups around 973. The problem, however, with going 9 pool straight up rather than overpool is it does delay that a bit, and he sees that gas getting planted fairly early. Well, never mind, this is actually on time. It's around the 3:10 mark. Man, a little bit off on this one. And he also sees the drone cycle here in the midst of this, and we'll see if this continues overall. The second hatchery, by the way, at the 3 o'clock location, just about complete, and Worst's doing a really good job of keeping this active. It looks like he's wandering up to go ahead and confirm on location. He's getting his own gas up. It's about halfway finished. His gateway coming online as well. Keep in mind with the additional, with the 2 cannon opening, that's going to delay his zealots a little bit with the Forge opener, so he is going to have to play a little bit passive, which means he really wants to keep that probe scout active to get good looks, but we do see a tech delay on our side, so it's looking as though Wizard is going to transition this, at least from our eyes, into a standard play. And it looks like that's the Zergling that got the kill on the probe while I wasn't paying attention, but it looks like this is going to be a standard 3-hatch Mutalisk play, likely into the 4 then 5-hatch Muta overall. Worst natural expansion up and running, the cybernetic score morphing as well. Wizard diving in to go ahead and confirm that cybernetic score. And the Zealot, so one Zealot out on the low ground. Worst in the dark right this second. And we'll see if he does. The other advantage of having those 6 Zerglings out is it becomes a little bit more challenging, particularly with the 2 cannon opening and the lack of Zealot follow-up, to get additional eyes just to see the Hydralisk timings. So sometimes you have to store a little bit more minerals or drop cannons potentially in the dark against your opponent, or play it by ear. We do have that Stargate about halfway finished, and I'll be interested once the second Zealot pops if the 2 Zealots make a little bit of a motion out on the field to get eyes. We have +1 weapons. Especially with the 2 cannons, we don't have to worry about the Zerglings quite as much. We do have the Spire being dropped to the natural expansion, interestingly enough. not really providing any support to the Sim City. Maybe it is to deal with drops at later stages of the match. This is a sizable droppable area and can be a target. We do see the 2 Zealot move out that I missed. Some Zerglings taking some damage, but Worst wanting to confirm whether Hydralisks are making the way across the map or not. Turning and driving the Zerglings back up, going across the midpoint mark and not seeing any Hydralisks, just presuming at this stage that nothing's here. Nice little bit of free damage from Wizard. He does get a little base health, but not going to get a lot else. And with that, Worst going to feel good about the timing of this. So going for +1 weapon, Citadel of Adun, so might opt to field at least a Dark Templar, which has been a little bit more common amongst Protoss these days. 4th Hatchery, interesting getting dropped at the 9 o'clock location initially rather than at the natural expansion here from Wizard. Corsair making its way out. Is he going to hunt for that additional... No, for a second there I thought is he going to take the risk and hunt for additional Overlord? We do have Overlords spreading out across the map, interestingly enough, but we do have the 5th Hatchery and the Evolution Chamber along that edge, but second gas also being planted. Main now scouted, and Scourge not being constructed. I'm always surprised by Zerg not building the Scourge on point or saving a Larva to build a Scourge on point. I think that Overlord might get wiped out as a result, and Worst might have an exit opportunity if he feels out to the north. So that's one dead Overlord. And if he makes his way out to the north, should be able to escape, but there's the Scourge. Still might, no, never mind. Landed right as he was making his way across. Unfortunate timing there for Worst. Additional Overlords, and the initial Corsair loss can really be a bummer, because if there is an opportunity for Zerg to be a little bit flexible as far as follow-ups, but Worst, from what he's seen, is going to presume that it's going to be 5 hatch, +1 weapons, potentially +2 weapons down the line, and picking up the High Templar with the Hydralisks rather than the Mutalisks. So we are seeing a completion of that +1 weapons. I will be interested to see how many Dark Templar Worst decides to invest in here. He is going for the full Corsair count, and he's been very, very effective with his Corsair. I also want to point out that he is being extremely diligent with the Photon Cannon as natural expansion. This is a very intelligent, smart, safe play, and this is something that Protoss have been skipping a lot lately, just presuming that Mutalisks are not going to be going for an all-out assault, and I think many Protoss have lost games as a result of that, and I'm actually shocked that Zerg these days aren't exploiting that a little bit more, or adding it into their build order to get quick, easy, free wins. +1 weapons finish, by the way, Zealot leg speed as well, so the Zerglings getting chased out. The Corsair count not at 5 just yet, so they're going to hold short, but the Zealots getting some good screening thus far, and this is going to force out something to try to defend it. Interesting kind of Sim City here in the front. The eggs provide a little blockade along that right-hand angle. The Hydralisks are going to start gathering behind here to provide a bit of defense. 6 Zealots making their way forward. This and is going to get a decent surround. The Hydrals now backing out, and I like what Worst is doing here. Rather than committing to this fight, going to back up by getting tripped up by the Zerglings, and more Hydralists making their way across for Wizard. So he's going to get some Zealot kills where Worst might have been able to get out scot-free. So nice play there from Wizard. Wizard at a pretty healthy drone count, but Worst not looking too shabby himself. +1 weapons is finished, and he's starting to make his way out with those initial Corsair. It looks like he is investing across the board in High Templar, and Wizard moving out of position with a lot of the Hydralisks with some of those Zealot kills and leaving nothing at home. Does the High Templar... Psystorm's not finished, there's not a lot of Zealots left, and there's not a lot of cannons, and the cannon's coming a bit late from Worst. I actually missed this, so forgive me, but it looks like that forward gateway gonna get melted, and this might be game over potentially. 2 cannons in the rear finishing. And now Worst has to expose the probe lines to defend a bit. Another cannon getting wiped out. The Forge being ignored, by the way, in the midst of this. Psystorm just about finished, but we've got 1 High Templar with energy and nothing else. So a lot of probes being hit. The Corsairs, however, have been very active in the midst of this. We'll try to get a look at their hits in the as far as the follow-up to this. A lot of the cannons have been wiped out. Zealots just now coming out to clear this out. Or the two Zealots should be sufficient. Ooh, and a Psystorm on top of the Zealots. But unfortunately for Worst, he lost a lot of High Templar, expended a good amount of Storm here, lost a gateway, and honestly, I'm shocked he didn't lose more probes than he did. He lost a handful of probes, but nothing that is overly urgent. Did he end up losing the Corsairs? Where did the Corsairs go on the map? I kind of missed the Corsair positioning in the midst of this. I think there was an overbuild. Yeah, I think they just got wiped out. Man, I kind of want to rewind to spot it. But I believe the Hydralisk, do we have kills on this to confirm somewhere on location? Okay, 1 kill right there. Trying to like do forensics, 2 kills on that one. So I think these are all the Corsair kills that happened out in the front. So now Worst is very boxed into a corner. Wizard is free to go ahead and push. I think this +1 armor is going to finish, which is at least something here for Worst. But Wizard's in the midst of that, feeling very, very safe. It's kind of the nice thing for Zerg is if you put your Protoss opponent on the back edge, you can just drone very, very, very heavily in the midst of that. And so able to drone very heavily, but the High Templar are still alive. So for High Templar, there will be an opportunity for Worst down the line, and he has gone for the Gateway Flood in the midst of this, going up to 8 gateways to maybe go for a follow-up. Range, the big hit is losing all of those Corsair, and unfortunately, Wizard still looks like he's able to macro in the midst of this. Zealot, it looks like the Zealot's trying to draw the Hydralisk force forward. Wizard not falling for it, gonna go ahead and back out. And Wizard recognizing, I do like what Wizard's doing here. He recognizes he has map control, so going ahead and grabbing an additional hatchery. I like seeing the additional hatchery or something else, but so Lurkers making their way out in the field. They're eating a lot of Sidestorm to the north. 2 Sidestorm wiping out at least 2 Lurkers and damaging a lot of those Hydralisks. So Worst pecking away at what would have been a contain, and I think actually with that burst and also the expansion going online, Wizard might reconsider. Never mind, he's gonna morph more Lurkers here on the front. Very, very brave, so wanting to go for, and gonna continue this by filling in a lot of additional Hydralisks back to the outside of Worst's natural to go for full contain situation. Worst in the meantime opening up his front. He's got a lot of supply to try to make up for. The Corsair just checking things out, notices that the tech hasn't been made its way to Hive. He does want to try to confirm that there's an additional base going in that upper right hand corner. He's making his way that direction, has gotten a pretty good look at drone saturation overall, and has to recognize that the drone count is very, very healthy, so he needs to strike and strike fast. Honestly, as soon as he has an observer, maybe potentially move out there to keep himself from getting isolated in over the long haul. At least able to confirm that there's no additional base top right. A lot of Overlords upper left, which does open up, I want to say that opens up the possibility for Wizard going for a swap back to Mutalisk down the line. He'll have a lot of Overlords to pick with to go for a grouping, should he opt to do so. Right now he's in firm control of this match, however. High Templar have a good amount of Sidestorm. We got a full control group plus, it looks like, of Dragoons here. It looks like 1 over, but where are the observers? Shuttle being built. There's the first observer popping out. Not a lot of Hydralisks just yet, but the Hydralisks are making their way, and this is a bad rally, it looks like, with some drones. We do have an Overlord as well, but plenty of space here. Usually when it's bunched up along this corner with the Lurkers, it's a little bit harder to deal with. But with the spread, should be okay. The Hydralisks making the way forward. Wow. Eat a Sidestorm, but able to pick off that observer almost instantaneously. Did the shuttle pop out? In the midst of the shuttle just about to finish, so Worst is going to have to go for some storm drops to slow down this economy. You can see there's a 20 worker differential. The question is where does he land? Right now there's 2 Scourge at the natural expansion to defend that location. He could go all the way through, but there's a lot of eyes as far as the ability to get out, and it looks like it's just Zealots. So the Zealots just going to drop out here at the 6 o'clock. Looks like they're gonna, a cute little shuttle maneuver here, and I don't know that Wizard spots that. Yeah, that's in the dark. So might open up something for Worst down the line, but right now supplies are even, which usually is a bad scenario. Hydralisk moving forward, eating a lagging Sidestorm, which does not hit the Lurker lines. The Observer making his way forward as well. I'm not sure, I didn't check whether there was additional upgrades on the Observer as well. Oftentimes range is a huge advantage here, which allows that Observer to stay further back along those lines. These Zealots sneaking through, and Worst moving some just Zealots where the Scourge could potentially pick that off. These Hydrals being pulled back, and Worst going for the 1-2 punch of distraction. So moving in here to the 3 o'clock location, dropping to the Zealot. Yeah, they made it pass, and clearing out the front simultaneously. So we'll try to keep an eye on all this. That might be a dead hatchery right there. Zealot's also getting in the natural expansion, and he's also able to clear out the front summarily, getting some really good Sidestorms. Wizard getting completely overwhelmed by the multitask, is able to pick off that Observer right there, but we have another Observer in the corner. It looks like the Zealots are getting cleaned up, but in the meantime, Wizard has lost all of the workers at his natural. These Zealots are still holding strong. They're going to go ahead and march all the way into the main. By the way, +2 armor versus +2 weapons in the midst of this. Also, this army up front, a little bit of miss micro there as the Observer not towards the front of the army, going to be able to cycle its way back, and Hydral's not focus firing it because looks like Wizard's distracted. So Worst creating all sorts of distractions, now able to get on the map, and he's obliterated Wizard's army. Wizard caught in the middle of some sort of macro cycle, so I don't know that he's going to have a lot to recontain this, and he's going head to head as far as this fight goes with inferior forces. So these are good trades here for Worst. Now on the front, doesn't have additional side storm to continue, so might want to hold up short, but this has potentially opened up, and he needs to bring that shuttle back right this second. But this has definitely opened up additional bases. I'm not sure how that lurker snuck in underneath. Beautiful side storm, catching a lot of those units on the front, but Worst does need to get a move on and grab his own potential 9 o'clock base. Otherwise, he's just going to end up getting flooded out over the long term. Wizard feeling like he hasn't made his way to Hive Tech, and he needs to continue with the smothering attack before the upgrade differential kicks in, is continuing to press and wants to get a reseal on Worst outside of his natural. Shuttle still hovering out there, by the way. We have 2 workers making the way out. Is Wizard going to use the opportunity to sneak around to the 9 o'clock base or not? That's the next question, because there is an opportunity to assault along that ramp side that would really tax Worst's ability to cover multiple locations at once. Right this second, however, just holding outside the natural expansion. High Templar have at least 2 side storms to work with. The base is still humming. The natural the main, I should say, is mined out now for Worst. So needs to get this base up, honestly, 2 minutes ago. That would have been the piece of resistance, actually. That flurry of attacks was fantastic. If he got the base up, and I don't know that he would have been able to. There's too much of a lurker line, but that would have been like the chef's kiss. But Wizard grouping up, he's in a situation where it's a bit all or nothing right this second, because he's not teching. He's got additional gas to make it happen, but he's not teching to Hive. So he's going for an overwhelming mid game, and he might have missed his opportunity to make it happen. He wanted to just outproduce his opponent and sweep him over, and instead he's just donating bunches of troops into Worst's Psy Storm. So falling apart right this second. I've seen a lot of Zerg make the same mistake, where once a Protoss breaks out, they either try to make up for it by just sweeping additional attacks, and instead of just teching up and grabbing additional bases and trying to sweep and control and drain side storms. We do have a Dark Templar, by the way, out on the map as well that could create a bit of havoc. +2 weapons about to come online for Worst. That tends to be a shifting point. And we see that observer range also kicking in, where it's going to be a lot harder to snipe those observers, depending on how disciplined Worst is. Blizzard, in the meantime, going for +1 weapons upgrade to make Zerglings a little bit more effective, but at the same time, he again hasn't plopped down the Queen's Nest to go anywhere towards Hive Tech, so he's counting on just being able to out macro, and right now he doesn't honestly have a sizable enough gap to make the difference here, and I think he's hoping that maybe he'll be able to sweep some Zerglings in at some point while this army is staggered out. But effectively what he's doing is he's allowing Worst to continue to, as long as Worst stays alive right this second on these bases, he's allowing Worst to effectively continue to get these upgrades that eventually will overwhelm his opponent, and also build Psy Storm to just, and I like what Worst is doing, recognizing that this is what Wizard's attempting, just going, expending troops on Wizard's side so he doesn't feel strong committing. The shuttle able to sneak through the gap, by the way. Dark Templar about to drop that natural expansion. Lots of Psy Storms committed here. Dark Templar out, and it doesn't look like Wizard has noticed, and I don't know that he's going to get the notification either. So this Dark Templar is going to feast, absolutely feast. And that is an empty natural. Oh, and this is, again, Wizard's plan long term was stick on this and play from there. It looks like finally he's made his way to Hive Tech. I'm concerned this is too little too late, as the weapons upgrade already in his opponent's favor finally spots the Dark Templar. I don't think he's going to be in, these are drones. I don't know that he's going to be able to save a lot of additional drones here. Wizard panicking a little bit, trying to gather them up. One actually ending up behind the corner here. He is presenting another large army towards the front. We'll see if is Worst going to use this opportunity to drop some Psy Storm. Looks like not. In the midst of this, the drones have safely made it. Well, never mind. Some of them getting picked off. 15 kills on this Dark Templar. 16, it continues. And the Overlord's still not keeping up. Incredible amounts of damage. Wizard is now getting dropped back down to drone counts that you would expect from the mid game. And he is now going to have Hive Tech, but he has a much weakened economy to make it happen. And the upgrades continue. We have +3 weapons about halfway finished here from Worst. And without a second evolution chamber, which, okay, we do have 2 evolution chambers down, but without Hive in place to allow those upgrades to sweep, Worst is going to have opportunities to persist with this. Zergling's getting a little bit of damage. Some Hydralisks getting picked off in the forward field. And Worst now with a 20 supply lead, which puts him in a with the upgrade advantage, puts him in a comfortable position to start pecking away and forcing some of these fights. I do want to note that Wizard has the upper right-hand corner base. He's got plenty of gas to work with still. And it looks like doing a pretty good job. He picked off that forward observer, but there's another observer to go ahead and take its place. Some drones now peeling their way to the front. Lurkers getting cleared out. The Zealot's taking a lot of damage. More Lurkers coming to play. There's some Dragoon, and the Zealot's trying to stay back. Huge Psy Storm. And just obliterating these Lurker lines, and Wizard's supply all of a sudden is plummeting. I don't know that he has sufficient... He doesn't have Defiler Tech to make up the difference. Oftentimes that with Plague can make up the difference as far as the upgrades go. Sometimes Dark Swarm, if there's an overproduction of Dragoons, he's trying to plug in the gap in between, but there's plenty of Dragoons to go ahead and clear that. And Worst is now pressing and potentially threatening Wizard's main with the attack force and reinforcements that he has remaining. So Wizard's in a situation where he has to continue to pour attack troops out. Worst regrouping. How much Psy Storm does Worst have? Holy cow. He might, now that he's run out of Psy Storm, withdraw. Still a few Hydralisks out in the front. The last observer looks like it was picked off, so where this attack force with reinforcements, it looks like the reinforcements making the way out now, might have been enough to continue to swarm. You can see the Zerglings, kind of an emergency play. I think they're from Wizard last second. Archon with 16 kills, holy cow. Making the way back. Wizard, in the meantime, does have Hive up. He's got the Adrenal upgrade on the way. That will make the Zerglings a little bit more powerful on the ground. He does have +2 claws, keep in mind. He's got +2 weapons, but +3 armor is in place, and we got +3 weapons on the way opposite corner. Rest of the probes, now that the natural expansion is mined out, making their way to the 9 o'clock. Worst is in a situation where he does need to start... He's kind of in the opposite problem scenario right now, where Wizard he's made his way to Hive Tech, he's holding, he's got a lot of territory, he's got a sizable economy, he's made his way back up to 50 drones, which actually eclipses Worst's. Single Zealot, by the way, making its way top right. Some Zerglings peeling off. Drones trying to defend themselves, but this is additional economic disruption, which is exactly what Worst needs to stay in this match. Drones getting pecked away at here. The Zerglings are going to make their way up. A probe is upper left, but is not yet planted. The Zerglings walking in there, sneezing on that Zealot and able to wipe him out. But Worst is in a dire situation where he either needs to grab some additional bases ASAP, and keep in mind, there is that probe upper left. I don't think he's got a large enough army, though, to threaten a sizable enough trade to draw Worst off. Keep in mind, Zerglings can just shred bases right this second. So he might need to force attacks middle, get some brilliant Psy Storms, which is happening right this second, and finish the match right here. Otherwise, over the long haul, Wizard effectively he'll get the Defiler Mound, theoretically, down. I don't see it down right this second. Get Plague up, and be able to just kind of grind him down over the long haul. We have a Shuttle and 2 High Templar making their way top right, by the way, to try to stymie this economy. That would definitely help. But even with the additional drone kills, unless he's grabbing an additional base, it's still going to be one base effectively mining versus a sizable amount. Good obliteration of the drone lines. Worst, while the distraction's happening, engaging across mid-map, but does not have sufficient troops, so is in fact going to go ahead and pull back in the midst of this. High Templar morphing into an Archon. Top right, I don't think that's going to complete. Well, never mind, completes, and actually might be able to okay, I was about to say, does it survive against the drones? Worst getting some pretty good trades again, center map, but now Wizard's economy kicking in, and he's going to be able to smother this force. And again, I don't know that this is a sufficient enough defense force to defend upper left and procure that. Some good storms on the Lurkers, at least clears out 3 of them, and Worst holds momentarily. We have a pylon up, but no Nexus. And so we got the single base left here at the 9 o'clock. Somehow the third mined out. The natural, because of the drone kills, is not out. And so you kind of have an interesting... Actually, I want to reverse what I was saying a little bit earlier. I thought it was a larger base count, but Wizard has the natural expansion and the recently cleared out top right. So it's 2 bases versus 1, and this is honestly not a full functional base right this second outside of the gas. And he hasn't restarted mining here at the left. Where are the drones right this second? Are they all here? Trying to figure out where the drones are located. Nexus getting dropped top left. This is somewhat naked. We have 3 Zealots going to plant top right. If he can shut down this base, Worst actually might be able to turn this game completely around right this second. But he's got to survive Wizard making it a shot towards the upper right. Some good Psystorm right this second. Some Dragoons getting boxed out. Their High Templar don't have any Psystorm remaining. The Zealots, in the meantime, are going to be intercepted top right by some Hydralisks, it looks like. But the main attack force there by Wizard going to get cleared out. So it looks like the Nexus is in fact going to hold. If Worst can get that base up, it'll be 2 bases versus 2. And Wizard, to stay alive in this match, is going to need to take additional territory. On top of that, he's had Hive Tech up for quite a period of time. He still hasn't dropped that Defiler Mound, which is really what can catapult Zerg late game here. And he also hasn't continued with +3 weapons plus any of the +3s across the board, which means Worst's units are actually going to start hitting harder here, as he's got +3 armor, +3 weapons. Also adding in Reaver, very key component in the late game here. This Zealot with 3 kills. But is the drone, is he going to get another kill? Gets another kill. Wizard not doing a very good job, and wow, the Zealot actually dancing in the midst of this. He's got Hydralisk nearby as well. Zerglings streaming top left. Only a cannon there to defend. Zerglings will be able to clear this out pretty rapidly. This is going to come down to the wire here. The Zerglings should be able to surround the Nexus, trying to get to the backside so it's difficult to clear them out. And that, yeah, in fact, is going to be a dead Nexus and a dead probe. But, small bonus, Wizard has lost that upper right-hand corner. So Worst, despite losing top left momentarily, has managed to clear out all the workers top right. So it's 1 base versus 1 base. Well, technically it looks like there's a little bit more action here bottom left. But point being, for the moment, which is going to be a fraction of a moment here because this 9 o'clock base is almost mined out, he's in an okay economic situation, and Wizard's actually having trouble restabilizing his macro, has plummeted in supply. Regrouping, re-attacking here in the middle, eating some additional Psystorms. Lurkers scrambling around mid-map, trying to replant, but observers are on the forward field right this second. Zergling's doing what they can. And Worst is doing a great job of presenting a threat and dropping some Psystorm on his opponent. 1 High Templar picked off there. Does save his... Wow, never mind. Lost the last High Templar in the midst of that, but Wizard, honestly, well below 100 supply, is a little bit crippled here, and might want to risk just droning up rapidly and maybe even grabbing the natural in top right and just hope that Worst licks his wounds as well to reset to a later stage of the game. Looks like we have some drones that were being transferred top right, but this is still, we got 6 drones here, 4 drones here, and it looks like 5 drones right there. So not the strongest economy right this second. That being said, Worst is in worst shape where he's about to mine out here at the 9 o'clock. He still hasn't got that Nexus up top left. Somehow he's got to get probes transferred to the top left. I think Wizard recognizes if he, well, is he going to run down with the Zerglings and try to snipe this? It looks like he's going to try to run in. He's going to say he doesn't really need to run in and snipe this. He just needs to deny top left. He can concede this 1 base, grab some additional bases for himself at 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, natural here. Let Worst have that 1 final base, and then just deny additional bases out here, and eventually Worst will effectively run out of money. But right now, Wizard is continuing to reinvest in troops, but it's just small smatterings of troops. And that just kind of exacerbates the problem of the weapon upgrade differential, where if you go in with smaller units versus smaller units, that means +3 weapons versus +2/+2. Just makes it all the more effective. Wizard also has a glut of gas to work with, so it would be wonderful even if he got an Ultralisk Cavern down right this second. He's got so much gas, but seems to be relying heavily on Zerglings. Probes almost eating their own Psystorm. It looks like one of them got caught. Worst threading the needle right there, and Wizard gonna call GG as he sees the probes make it up to the 9 o'clock. I am shocked that he actually GG'd right there, but concerned that Worst, once he got that economy up and running, was going to be able to bowl him over. So we're going to go into game 2. I wanted go for a rewind really fast. So just check. So he's still mining. Yeah, still mining top right. Still has the natural, although that's looking a little bit thin. Maybe he was worried about... I'm actually a little bit shocked by this. Yeah, so it would have been 1 base versus technically 3. But Wizard is very low on supply otherwise. Interesting, but gonna GG right there. We'll move on to game 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.